Take two tiny particles, born from the same event, then pulled apart across a room, across a country, in principle across the whole universe. Measure one of them, and in that instant the other one is decided too. Not a second later, not at the speed of light. Instantly. Albert Einstein looked at this and refused to believe it. He called it spooky action at a distance, and he was sure it meant the theory was broken. He spent the rest of his life trying to prove it wrong. He lost. I was a quantum mechanics researcher, and I want to be honest with you from the first minute. 100 years later, experiment after experiment has shown that the spooky thing is real, and physicists still cannot fully tell you why. And just recently, in 2026, they confirmed it in a way no one had ever managed before. This is quantum entanglement, and by the end of this video, I'm going to do something I rarely see done carefully. I am going to walk you through exactly what the equations say, and then mark a hard line and tell you where my own model begins. Because on the other side of that line is the question you actually came for. Why do meaningful coincidences happen? The person who drops into your mind minutes before they call, the thing you needed, arriving from a direction you never expected. I'm going to argue that those are not noise, and entanglement is the first physics that lets me say so without lying to you. Stay with me to the end. The line I leave you with is one you can carry. Let me build it properly, because if you do not feel the strangeness, the rest will not land. Start with a single particle, an electron, spinning. In the quantum world, before you measure it, that electron does not have one fixed spin. It is in a superposition, spin up and spin down at the same time, a blur of both possibilities, undecided. Only when you measure it does it snap to one answer. That alone is strange. But entanglement takes two particles and ties their fates together. Create a pair the right way, and quantum mechanics says they share a single state. If this one is up, that one is down, always, guaranteed. Here is why that breaks your intuition. Neither particle has decided yet. Both are blurred, both undecided, up and down at once. Then you measure this one and it snaps to up. At that exact moment, the other one, which could be anywhere, snaps to down. It did not travel. It did not send a message. The two were never really two separate things. Einstein hated this. In 1935, with Podolsky and Rosen, he wrote a paper meant to be the knockout blow. The argument was simple and reasonable. Nothing can act faster than light, so the particles must have carried their answers all along, like two gloves sealed in two boxes, one left, one right, decided at the start. No spookiness, just hidden information we cannot see. For 30 years, that stood as a tie. Maybe Einstein was right. Hidden variables. Maybe the quantum picture was right, genuinely undecided until measured. It looked like a question philosophy could argue forever and physics could never settle. And then one man found a way to settle it. This is the part of the story that gives me chills every time, because it is the moment a metaphysical argument turned into something you could actually test on a lab bench. In 1964, the physicist John Bell did something extraordinary. He found a number. He proved that if Einstein was right, if the particles carried hidden answers all along, then the correlations between them could only add up so far and no further. There is a ceiling, call it Bell's limit. But if quantum mechanics was right, if the particles were truly entangled, truly undecided until measured, the correlations would break straight through that ceiling. Two different worlds, now separated by a single measurable number. No more philosophy, just go measure it. So they measured it. Through the 1970s and 80s, Alain Aspect and others built the experiments, entangled photons sent in opposite directions measured far apart, fast enough that no signal at light speed could sneak between them. And the result came back, again and again. The correlations smashed through Bell's limit. Einstein's hidden gloves could not explain it. The spooky connection was real. This was not a small result. In 2022, the Nobel Prize in Physics went to Aspect, Closer, and Zeilinger for exactly this, for proving experimentally that entanglement is genuine and that nature really does behave in this non-local way. This is not fringe. This is the establishment with a medal on it. And physicists kept closing the doors. Every time someone said, but maybe there is a loophole, maybe the detectors conspired, maybe the settings were correlated, a new experiment shut that door. By 2015, loophole-free Bell tests had sealed nearly all of them. The escape routes for secretly local, secretly ordinary were running out. Then comes the news that made me want to make this video now. In 2025 and into 2026, physicists reported entangling two atoms while they were moving for the first time. Not held perfectly still in a trap, but in motion, bringing the spooky connection one step closer to the warm, moving, messy world you and I actually live in. And in the same stretch, fresh theoretical work tightened Bell's argument even further, quietly closing what many physicists consider the last serious mathematical escape route for explaining entanglement away as something secretly local. I will say this as plainly as I can. The "it is just hidden information" exit is, for all practical purposes, closed. Entanglement is a real distance zero connection in nature. Now, Before I cross any line, I have to be the honest physicist, because honesty is the whole point of this channel. Let me tell you what entanglement does not let you do. It does not let you send a message faster than light. When you measure your particle, you get a random result, up or down, 50-50. You cannot control it, so you cannot use it to text someone on Mars. Physicists are strict about this, and they are right. So hold both of these at once, because the whole story lives in the tension between them. 1. The connection is instant, real, and ignores distance. That is confirmed. 2. You cannot use it to push a signal through. Entanglement is not a wire. It is a correlation, a shared state, woven into two places at once. Real, but not a telephone. And that word, correlation, is where my model begins. So let me stop and mark the line. Everything up to this point is published, prize-winning mainstream physics. From here on, this is my interpretation, my model. I will tell you exactly where I am building past the equations. Here is the question that has followed me for years. Physics has shown that two particles, once connected, stay correlated across any distance with no signal passing between them. So I keep asking, is connection without a signal only true for particles? Or is it pointing at something about how meaning moves through a life? Because there is a word for meaningful connection that arrives without any visible signal between the parts. The psychologist Carl Jung gave it to us almost a century ago. He called it synchronicity. Jung's definition was precise and worth hearing exactly. Synchronicity is a meaningful coincidence of two events with no causal link between them. Nothing traveled from one to the other, and yet they belong together. They mean something, taken as a pair. A name surfacing in your mind and the phone lighting up with it. Two events, no wire between them, and yet unmistakably a pair. Sit with how strangely that rhymes with entanglement. Two events, no signal passing between them, and yet a correlation too sharp, too on the nose to wave away as nothing. Jung was describing in the language of the mind what Bell would later describe in the language of physics. Now, I want to be careful here because this is exactly the spot where people overstate and lose the thread. No physicist has shown that synchronicity is literally quantum entanglement between events in your life. That bridge is mine. It is a hypothesis I find hard to resist once you lay the pieces side by side. But I am telling you it is my reach, not a measured result. And here is why I think the bridge is worth crossing instead of just a pretty rhyme. Remember the physics from my last video? Research centered at Shanghai University showed theoretically that entangled pairs of photons can form inside the myelin sheaths wrapping your nerve fibers. Entanglement is not only out in cold labs. The conditions for it may exist inside your own head. An entanglement, by its nature, has no built-in limit on distance. So once it exists in a brain, nothing in the physics guarantees it stays politely sealed inside one's skull. In my model, the threads of correlation run further than the bone. Put those together and synchronicity stops being embarrassing. If consciousness is woven into a field that permeates space, and if entanglement links events across that field with no signal required, then a meaningful coincidence is not a glitch. It is exactly what you would expect a connected universe to feel like from the inside. So let me say the line I have been building toward. The thing that is meant for you may not be far away, waiting to be chased down. In this model, it is already entangled with you, already correlated. The work is not to travel to it, the work is to stop blocking the correlation. Which sounds lovely and abstract. So let me bring it all the way down to the ground, to the question that actually keeps people up at night. Why do two people want the same thing just as badly? And one watches it arrive as if by magic, while the other chases for 10 years and it stays just out of reach? The usual answers are not enough effort and not enough belief. But you know people who try ferociously and stay stuck, and people who believe completely and still get nothing. So it is not effort and it is not belief. In this model, the difference is what you do with the correlation that is already there. Think about what chasing actually is. Chasing is the constant signal, I do not have it yet. It is attention fixed on the gap, the absence, the distance. And remember the physics. You cannot push a signal through entanglement. Forcing does not travel. Straining is you trying to use the connection as a wire, and the connection is not a wire. So the harder you chase, the more you broadcast the one state you do not want, separation. It is over there. I am over here. There is a gap. You are not closing the distance. In this model, you are insisting on it, measuring yourself over and over into the branch where the thing is absent. The people for whom things seem to fall into place are doing the opposite, often without knowing it. They are not straining across a gap. They hold the quiet sense that what is theirs is already linked to them, and they let the correlation resolve. They stay open to it, arriving from any direction, dressed as a coincidence, a stranger, a sudden idea. Let me redefine the usual words in this language, cleanly. Observation, placing your attention, is in my model the act of selecting which correlation you let resolve. Attention on the gap resolves the gap. Attention on the connection lets the connection complete. And the subconscious is just the set of correlations you habitually resonate with, the same ones every day, locked in, which is why white-knuckling your way to a new life so often fails. You are not changing the correlation, you are measuring the old one harder. A single figure still, and the thin threads of light around them, which had been pulled tight and straining outward, slowly going slack and quietly drawing things inward instead. So the practical move is almost the reverse of trying harder. It is to act sincerely from the felt sense that the connection already holds, and then to stop measuring the gap, to stop checking every hour whether it has arrived yet. Each anxious check is one more measurement collapsing you back into not here. Now, is any of this proven? No, and I am not going to stand here and tell you that physics has shown your thoughts pull events to you. It has not, and anyone who tells you it has is selling you something. Let me be exact about what is real and what is mine. What is real, confirmed, prize winning. Entanglement is genuine, non-local, and indifferent to distance. The conditions for entanglement may exist inside the brain, and a 2026 line of work has started writing the observer's role into actual equations rather than leaving it as philosophy. What is mine and labeled as mine? That synchronicity is the same connection felt from the inside, that what is meant for you is already correlated with you, that chasing broadcasts separation, and that opening lets the correlation resolve. These are my hypotheses. I will keep calling them hypotheses even as the physics keeps drifting year after year in their direction. But here is what I will say with no hedging at all. The frontier is, for the first time, building the tools to ask these questions seriously. That is new. That is real, and it is enough to change how you hold your own mind, which is the only thing any of us actually steers. So here is where I will leave you. Stop picturing the life you want as something far away, on the other side of a long, exhausting distance you have to cross by force. In this model, it is not across a gap. It is entangled with you already, correlated, waiting only for you to stop insisting on the separation. You do not chase what is entangled with you. You stop blocking it and you let it arrive, which is the line I want to leave with you. What is meant for me is already entangled with me. I do not have to chase it across a distance. I only have to stop insisting it is far away. Say it slowly and mean it. What is meant for me is already entangled with me. I do not have to chase it across a distance. I only have to stop insisting it is far away. If that reached something in you, write it in the comments, in your own words. I keep asking for a reason. Something happens when many people hold the same line at once. And one last thread, because it opens straight into where we go next. If two particles can stay connected across any distance, then the obvious question is the one Einstein never wanted to face. What does that say about time? Next time, I want to open the quantum experiments that seem to let the future reach back and touch the past. I will see you there.